Imp of the Perverse here with a tutorial video for More Complex Wasteland, the latest incarnation of the Hunger Thirst Sleep mod Imp's More Complex Needs, released previously for Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Skyrim, and now for Fallout 4. It's a physiologically detailed metabolism simulator where foods have fully working nutrition information similar to what you'd find on food packaging. This latest installment has some new features, with the goal of adding depth and immersion through realism, then keeping things fun and playable with sci-fi tech. Towards that end, it has three parts. The traditional survival component currently consists of hunger, thirst, sleep, where you have to keep your character fed and rested, an optional encumbrance adjuster for more realistic inventory weights and weighted ammunition, timescale adjustment, and a weather calculator used primarily for affecting dehydration rates. Offsetting the survival side are a collection of cybernetic upgrades that make the hunger, thirst, sleep less punishing, portable delivery bots that can be used to offload loot for delivery to settlements, and Trailblazer Co, an automated looting system that uses settlement scavengers to pick cleared areas clean and then deliver the spoils to their home settlement. This lets you travel light and focus on combat and exploration while still collecting enough junk to keep your settlements running. To start off, I'll begin with a walkthrough of the Hunger, Thirst, Sleep section. Because this mod has a bunch of different components, it's modular in design, and most of the more invasive stuff like the hunger, thirst, sleep is disabled by default. It starts off the first time you open your Pip-Boy, but in order to get the hunger, thirst, sleep working, you have to go ahead and enable it through the aid section of your inventory. Click on the More Complex Wasteland item, and you'll get this menu with the various subcomponents listed. Pick Imp's More Complex Needs and the Needs options, and you'll see it's disabled to begin with. Click Enabled and wait for everything to get running, and it will tell you that your current companion will require food. This is a new feature that has been added where you have to actually keep your companion fed in addition to your own character. So go ahead and click OK, and it tells you that by dropping food from your inventory you'll get a separate menu that lets you feed food to your companion and also see the nutrition information on it. And it is still booting up. There it goes. Okay, Imp's More Complex Needs, Physiologically Detailed Hunger, Thirst, Sleep. It's now been enabled. You can check your character's metabolism with this menu item. Click that and you'll get this video, or get this menu. And it has various components. There's satiety, which is how full your character is. This is just how much food is in their stomach, and once it reaches 100% you can't really eat more. So this becomes sort of a mini game where you try to hit all of these other stats while not getting too full. In addition to that, there's morale, which is how happy your character is, and you can improve their morale by eating tastier foods. So if you're out there living on raw rad roach, your morale is going to plummet. Whereas if you're living on Nuka-Cola and roasted Mirelurk meat, you'll be doing pretty well. Rather than tracking hunger directly, which sort of becomes confusing when you have satiety, I track glycogen, which is how much blood sugar you have or how much carbohydrate is stored in your muscle tissue, which is your fast twitch muscle fuel. The thirst side of it is hydration. That's just water. It's a bit more straightforward. Sleep debt, which is how much time you need to now sleep. Right now it's at -2 hours, which means you need to sleep 2 hours to be fully rested, which you won't see any penalties until your sleep debt reaches -8. Fatigue is also in here, which is how physically tired you are. And what that does is subtract from your action point bar, similar to the fatigue that's in the survival mode, but it builds up as your character is active, rather than being sort of a combination of all the other factors of the mod. In addition to these basic stats, there are nutrients, which is kind of the net sum of the RDA values like vitamin A and vitamin C and vitamin D and iron and all that stuff that you have a certain amount that you're supposed to ingest each day. Protein, which is basically meat, and sodium, which is electrolytes, and depletes as you become dehydrated. There are also substances, alcohol and caffeine. Rather than drinking a beer or a whiskey or a vodka and getting drunk, you have to drink a certain amount of it to get your blood alcohol content up, and there are different levels of inebriation. There's sober, there's buzzed, there's drunk, there's hammered, and there's blackout drunk. Caffeine is similar, where the more caffeine you drink, the more wired or amped up you get. There's also your character's physique, which is their height, weight, total mass of muscle, and body fat. And these change slowly over time. The more active your character is, the more muscle they'll build, and the more fat they'll burn, and you'll get various penalties and bonuses depending on how healthy your character is. This is showing currently the player's health statistics, but if you switch to the companion, you can see how healthy they are, and it starts out at in the same basic state. Feeding your character is relatively simple. You just eat a food. It's probably a good idea to check your needs first. That's why the menu accessor is in this part of your inventory. So right now this character doesn't really need anything, although their hydration is a little bit low, so I'll go ahead and drink some water. Purified water. And you'll see now there are some numbers in the parentheses after hydration. That's how much you just drank. So once you've ingested and fully digested this food, that hydration level will be up at around 12. So what you want to try and do is, if it's gone negative and you're suffering penalties, drink enough to where you add those two numbers together and it gets you back in the positive. And generally speaking, if you get all the numbers up around 100%, you'll be good to go for about 8 hours. And so you can kind of try and split it up into 3 meals per day. The amount that you end up eating is fairly realistic and increases depending on how active your character is. That can be adjusted or sort of viewed here in the settings. You go to needs options and activity rates. And these are how much you end up needing to eat depending on which of these various actions you're performing. If you're sleeping, you eat less than the average sedentary person, but you don't usually sleep all day. If you are sitting, you end up eating 10% more than if, just sort of the average. Standing gets you 1.6. Walking is 2.3 times as much food. Sprinting is 12.7. It's actually realistic. If you spent all day sprinting, which is kind of impossible, you'd end up eating 20,000 calories, which is difficult to put down. And these are all adjustable. You can click these and adjust those rates. Right now, the realistic is the default, but at some point in the future, I'll probably be coming up with more balanced numbers. There's another way of eating, and that is to check the nutrition stats on the food itself. So let's see, do I have any Nukas? Yeah, so here's a Nuka cherry. If you drop it from your inventory, this menu will pop up. It shows you the nutrition information on that food. So you'll see it has 232 calories, no fat, a fair amount of carbohydrates, no protein. It has water in it, so even though you kind of think of soda as being dehydrated, it does have water, and so do most of the foods. And they'll contribute to your hydration. It has a little bit of nutrients, not all that much. It has some sodium, and it has caffeine. And you'll see you can eat the food after you've dropped it and viewed its statistics, or you can feed it to your companion, and this is how you keep your companion fed. You go, you check your companion's needs statistics, see if they're needing anything. So right now their hydration is also a little bit low. And you can have them eat the Nuka-Cola, so feed the companion. And you'll see now your companion has a certain amount of hydration that they've ingested, along with the glycogen or the carbohydrates and nutrients. And once this has entered their system, they'll get the bonuses from the caffeine. There are some additional settings that you'll probably want to take a look at before you've begun or after you've enabled. If you go to options here, You'll see you've got no food healing. That prevents food from boosting your health. That's optional. You can have it. Food either heals or it doesn't heal. The no resting heal, this will eventually make it so that while you're sleeping you don't heal. Although right now that setting doesn't really do anything. The special food effects, this is when you have like, Yao Guai meat boosting your damage or things like that. You can turn that on and off. So if you want this to be completely realistic where food is just food, you can disable both the food healing and the food effects. And it'll work like that. As far as companions eating go, you can turn that feature on and off. It might be a little bit too much micromanagement for you, and so you can just disable it by saying companions no longer eat. Another useful side effect of having this thing in the aid section of your inventory, you can favorite it, which lets you quickly hotkey and check your need statistics. So you just hit what you favorited, and now you can check it while you're kind of running around. And as your character develops hunger or thirst or sleep, you'll get the same kind of icons down in the bottom right corner of your screen that you do in survival mode, where you'll see a little water drop if you're thirsty, and you'll see a food icon if you've got low glycogen, and a bed if you've become tired. Another feature of Imp's More Complex Needs, or the survival component of this, is encumbrance management. Go through and adjust that by going through Imp's More Complex Needs again and going to encumbrance. What this lets you do is adjust your carry weight. It shows your current carry weight, which is your carry weight plus all of the various, pocketed armor and various stat buffs that you've got. Your current base carry weight, which is your carry weight without all of that, and your default base carry weight. If these two numbers are the same, both of your base carry weights, then you haven't affected your carry weight at all with this mod. You can increase your carry weight if you want to be able to carry more, or you can decrease it if you want to make it something more realistic. If you go by ammo weights, this is actually in pounds, so carrying 300 pounds is a little optimistic. If you get that down around 70, it's realistic, but it's kind of unplayable. But that's up to you. If you just want to go around with a pistol and lightweight armor, that's something you can do. Although this mod does have power armor, so once you've put that on, it is somewhat realistic to carry this much. In addition to the adjustable carry weight, you've also got an ammo weight that you can turn on. Right now I have weightless ammo. If you enable weighted ammo, it allows you to do an ammo weight multiplier, which right now it's set to 1. If you set that to 1/2, you'll get half of the ammo weight penalty that you would get if you had survival mode enabled. You can set that up to 2 times, although they do have realistic bullet weights. If you go and you check 556 ammunition to what it actually does weigh, they got that realistic. So 1.0 is realistic. You can set it lower if you want it to be a little less punishing. And the way this works, it adds ammunition bags to your inventory. So it adds a 1 pound bag for every pound of ammunition you're carrying. And the cool thing about this is that it lets you adjust it like that. It lets you adjust the weight penalty. That's not something you could really do via script if you're just enabling weight ammunition the way that survival mode does. And you can see how many ammunition bags you're carrying by going to the miscellaneous section. And right now you've got 899 pounds of ammunition, which that's quite a bit. But I've got 1,500 rounds of 38 ammo and a whole bunch of harpoons and some mini nukes. So that's kind of realistic. Another feature of Imp's More Complex Needs is Ambient Temperature, which was a mod I released for Fallout New Vegas a while back. And what it does is it calculates a realistic air temperature and weather for the region. So what I did was go through and look up weather statistics for the Boston area and input some equations into some scripts, and it goes through and it calculates what the air temperature would be, or probably be, given the day and time of year and time of day and all that. And you can hotkey the little menu item that lets you see the weather statistics. And so what you've got is the time of day and the date, the current air temperature, what your daily highs and lows are going to be, and the weather forecast. So right now it's rainy. And the way you do that is by going into the aid section, and it's this check weather item. And you can hotkey that just like you can the check metabolism. Included with IMP's More Complex Needs is a timescale adjuster. What this lets you do is just how quickly time passes in-game, and this is the kind of thing that's good to bundle with a hunger thirst sleep simulator like this, because the faster time passes, the more you'll end up having to feed your character. So you eat about the same amount every day. If your time scale is 20, you end up eating 20 times as much as if your time scale is 1, or 10 times as often per hour of playing. And the way you go ahead and access that is again through More Complex Wasteland and then IMP's More Complex Needs, and you'll see timescale as an option. So you click that. Right now it's set to dynamic timescale. What the dynamic timescale does is that it sets a different timescale, or actually right now it's static. Okay, so static, just you see what you get. If you set your timescale to 5, you get a timescale of 5. And so that adjusts. Right now time is passing 5 times as quickly as it would in real life. Something that I've heard from Xbox users is that if you set the timescale lower than 6, you'll start crashing. I haven't seen that on PC, but if that's what's happening and you're starting to crash on Xbox or possibly PS4, I don't know, you'll want to set your timescale to something 6 or higher, and that's still pretty. In addition to the static timescale adjustment, you can also switch to dynamic timescale. And what that does is it sets your timescale contextually. If you're in combat, if you want time to pass at 1-to-1, you can have that happen. Whereas while you're in interiors, you can have it set also at 1-to-1, so it's kind of realistic. You're running around inside of a building. You know how big the building is. It takes a given amount of time to cross it, and it's fairly realistic. What I typically do is set it higher in exteriors. So what that makes it seem like is that the area you're traversing in the wasteland is much larger. So the amount of time it takes to get from Diamond City to Sanctuary is 8 times as long. You end up having to eat 8 times as much food, and it sort of makes it seem like the wasteland is larger than it is, at least in terms of what kind of resources you need to cross it. And so you can adjust these individual timescales by clicking these buttons here. So if you want your combat timescale to be 2, you just click that and it increases it. And then interiors, you might make it 3 or 5. And again, I haven't seen any issues so far on PC with having these all the way down at 1, but I have heard that it'll crash on Xbox if you're below 6. And the last feature of the Hunger Thirst Sleep portion is the series of upgrades that you can install. And the way you install these upgrades is by going to a workshop, going to resources and miscellaneous, and you'll see Dr. Cyborgtron, which is something that you can create here. So what Dr. Cyborgtron does is he offers a series of implants that you can install your character or your companion that affect various aspects of the Hunger Thirst Sleep. Mostly it adjusts the rates, although it also gives you some other boosts, like making it so that you can build muscle faster or avoid muscle growth penalties while you're starving. So you go ahead and talk to him, and you get this list of upgrades. There are 6 of them currently. And just picking one, we've got the Hydrant Retention Package. And so what it does is it uses heat exchangers to cool your blood, making you sweat less, and uses synthetic kidneys to reduce your fluid expenditures and also stabilize your salination rates. So what it ends up happening is it cuts your dehydration rate by 2/3 and also keeps your salination from going above what it should be and from dropping too low too quickly. So I've already got this one installed, so that option, the option to install it, isn't there. But you can purchase it for your companion if they haven't got it yet. So now my companion has that installed, and their hydration will drop a lot more slowly. And one thing that this does, right now you saw the activity rates earlier, which is how much you have to eat and sleep extra when you're being very active. If you're in power armor, it basically treats it like you're walking, even if you're sprinting, because the armor is doing most of the work. What these upgrades do for the most part is make it so that you can exist outside of power armor without having to eat like a horse 24/7. And so it's another aspect of the tech sort of offsetting the hunger, thirst, sleep, and all the various survival penalties. Now that we've finished up the hunger, thirst, sleep section, I can move on to portable delivery bots, which are craftable robots that you can deploy, carry into the field with you, deploy, and then load all of your stuff onto. Once they're filled up, you can send them back to your settlements, and they'll deposit the stuff at workstations or at workshops. So you craft these at chemistry stations. They're under utility. And you need a certain amount of, you need some perks. You need robotics expert and vans. And there are 3 different levels with 3 different carry weights. You've got the Mark 1, the Mark 2, and the Mark 3. I'll go ahead and create a Mark 1 because I only have robotics expert rank 1. And they require aluminum, circuits, fusion cells. They get recharged every time you use them. Gears, all these. They also do require a stealth boy because they're non-combatant and they stealth to avoid being picked off on the way back to their settlement. And so what it creates are actually these little grenades. It's a miniature Mr. Handy. So what you can do is loot stuff from someone. And it has a sorting system, so you can go ahead and deposit an entire category of stuff. So this will take all of the junk from your inventory and transfer it to the bot. And if you want to get rid of, say, random miscellaneous items or books, you can. Or weapons, or you can go ahead and give all of your favorited weapons to your companion and then just transfer all weapons to this thing. You can also open its inventory and transfer things item by item. Once you've loaded all the stuff into your bot, you can talk to it and say dispatch to settlement, and you can pick which settlement you want to send it to. So you can actually use these to take stuff or send stuff from one settlement to another. And what it does is it stealths and then heads over to that settlement's workshop, and you'll find it there. So right now I'm in 10 Pines Bluff. And one cool feature, you might be sending this to a settlement that's really far away and you're not going to be checking up on it in a while. You can have it deposit the stuff to the workshop or retain it, or just deposit the junk so that you can go and sort through the weapons that it's carrying. So I'll go ahead and do that. So it stealths and heads off. So there it is. And once it's there, you can use it to, you can deposit stuff to the bot. You can retrieve categories from the bot. You can also move categories to the workshop from the bot. So if you only want to store things in the workshop, you can kind of use this robot as your own personal sorting assistant. So you can park one in each settlement and have it sort things around from one container to the next, which is pretty handy. Once you've dispatched one of these to the settlement, it's depleted its charge, and so you have to recharge it if you want to reuse it. And you can also collapse it back into the pod that it started out in. In order to do that, you have to have enough microfusion cells to recharge it. So I'll go ahead and do that, and hopefully it doesn't just disappear. And you'll see after that that it went ahead and deposited the grenade back into my inventory. So I've got 4 of these things again. Now the final component of the mod is Trailblazer Company. What this does is it's another little bot grenade you can craft. Trailblazer beacons. So you create one of these. They have the same sort of requirements, science and vans. So you go ahead and create those. And what these things do is they allow you to loot an entire area by just deploying one of these bots. So right now there's a bunch of gunners that just got taken out by my settlers. I can take this little grenade, Trailblazer beacon, throw it down, and it'll ask me to pick a settlement. So you need to pick a settlement that has scavengers deployed. And it seems to be a little bit finicky about it, but Sanctuary Hills seems to work. So I've chosen Sanctuary Hills. This area has not been cleared. So what this does, some areas in the game can be cleared. It basically flags them as being free of enemies. If that's the case, then it goes ahead and loots them right away because it assumes it's safe for the scavengers to come in and pick through things. If you're anywhere else, you can still loot the area, but you have to have everything killed. And the search area, search that this thing performs takes sort of a while. It's one sort of problem with this. But you can go ahead and scan for enemies. So I'll go ahead and scan once because this area is most likely clear of enemies. But what you can do is throw one of these beacons down once you a dungeon or whatever, and have it do automatic rescans, and it'll just keep scanning the area until you've killed everything there and ravaging the area. And this was really handy, but if you've got like a big area to clear, you can kind of drop start of it and then start picking your way through it as you fight the enemies. And by the time you've finished killing everything and making the exit, it'll be done looting it. And you don't have to deal with picking up all the stuff that you've dropped on the floor. You don't have to worry about inventory management. It just all gets taken back to your settlement and deposited in your workstation. So right now this bot is performing the hostile area scan. It takes a couple of minutes, so it's better to get it kind of started ahead of time. But that is what these little Pip-Boy games are for. So it's completed its area scan and it's starting the scavenging operation. And so right now there are invisible scavengers running around picking these guys clean. All of these bots get quest markers so you can track them down if you've left the area. The portable delivery bots and also these tracking beacons. And when you have one of these beacons deployed, you can also check out the area that it's searching. So right now these 4 markers mark the corners of the area that's being searched. So it sort of is off-center from the map marker for 10 Pines Bluff. And if you want to, you can track down those little markers and you can actually see them. There's one off in the distance there down low, and there should be one up high. Yeah. So typically searches an area that goes up higher than it does, farther up than it does down. That's because, so if you're in an interior in a building that's got multiple stories, it's best to drop the beacon at the bottom than at the top. And it sort of searches maybe 2 or 3 floors up. And there, when the bot has finished its scavenging operation, you'll get this message pretty much no matter where you are. The scavenging operation has been completed. Items await delivery to your scavenging team's workshop. And you can either say inspect or await inspection or deliver items. If you choose to deliver items, everything that it's picked up will go directly to the workshop that the scavengers originated from, and along with the beacon. So you can go back to that workshop, retrieve the beacon, and reuse it. You can also say await inspection. So if you're nearby, you can go, okay, I'm going to inspect the items that you've looted. Scavenged items can be found at a location marked on your map. What will happen is that a canvas bag will be spawned beneath the bot, and you can look inside of it, see what was picked up, take ammunition or whatever else you want with you before this stuff gets delivered. And if you want to, you can deposit stuff from your inventory. So if you're already pretty loaded down, you can go ahead and get rid of the stuff that you don't need.
I'm all for taking all we can, but you're looking a little ways down there.
And once that's done, you can go ahead and deliver all that, deliver it to a settlement. And one of the cool things is you've got the same sorting kind of filtration or filters that you've got with the little bots. So if you want to, you can say remove category. Say all of the chems from this bag. So it went ahead and dropped the beacon there, so if I can go ahead and pick it back up right now, rather than having to go all the way to workshop to retrieve it. And they're reusable. So right now I'm getting to the point where my nutrients and stuff are low enough, I've had this activate long enough that I need to eat something. So right now everything's doing pretty well, but I'm low on sodium, or just starting to become low on sodium. So right now I've got an actual penalty, and you can check these by going to the effects section. So I've got low electrolytes, agility -1 and intelligence -1. So what I want to do right now is eat a salty food, and that tends to be processed foods like the TV dinners and also the Mirelurk meat. Apparently crab is really high in sodium. And that concludes the tutorial for More Complex Wasteland. If you have any questions or want to check out the mod, follow the links below to Bethesda.net or Fallout 4 Nexus. It's available for PC and console. I'll also be entering it into the status category of NVIDIA's Fallout 4 mod contest, so if you decide you like it, public voting starts the week of July 11th. The link to the contest is provided below.